Hey guys, how's it going today? I hope the day is treating you well. It's Jesse here from Canadian DIY, and today I just want to slow down and talk about one specific thing. And this is something that anybody can do. You can do this. And that topic scares the living bejesus out of a whole bunch of people. And usually understandably so. You watch the videos or something like that and you see them. Expensive jigs, expensive tooling, things like that in order to make cabinet doors. Now, what you see here is a nice, beautiful shaker style frame and panel cabinet door. It looks fantastic, but basically the tools I built this guy with are right here. Obviously you still do need some tools. I mean, you're building something, but none of them are crazy expensive. That's the best part. So these are a fantastic option if you're just looking to build maybe a couple to do for a project around the house, a cabinet or something like that. Or if you get real adventurous and you're maybe gonna redo all the kitchen cabinets in your house, because buying cabinet doors is expensive. So I'm going to bring the camera in. I'm going to show you exactly how I built this right now. Okay, so now to figure out the frame dimensions of my door, I'm using 1/2 inch overlay hinges, which means that my door will overlay by 1/2 inch each direction. So in order to figure out the length of my stiles on each side, I'm going to take the total opening of my door and add 1 inch. And that will give me the length of my stiles. And in order to figure out my rails, I'm going to take the total opening of my door again, and I'm going to add 1 inch, just like before. But now I have to count for my stiles because my rails fit inside of them. So I'm using a 1x3, which is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take off 5 inches because that's both of them combined. So take the total opening, add 1 inch, and then minus 5 inches, and that will give you the total opening of your, or total length of your rails. If you're doing an inset door, however, so in other words, if your door fits inside of either your frame or whatever have you, if your door fits inside of it so it's flush all the way around, typically an 1/8 inch reveal all the way around is kind of what you're going for. So what you're going to do is same as before, take your total measurement vertically, but because your door fits inside, you're going to take off 1/4 inch. That will give you an 1/8 inch top and bottom. If you feel like pushing the envelope and you want to make it a little bit tighter, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, 1/16 and a 1/16 is an 1/8 inch. So take your total measurement, subtract an 1/8 inch. It's up to you. And then the exact same thing this direction for your rail. You're going to take the total opening of your door minus the width of your rail, so in my case 5 inches, or the width of your stile, so in my case 5 inches, and then I'm going to subtract another either 1/4 inch for an 1/8 inch reveal on each side, or 1/8 inch for a 1/16 reveal on each side. And now that you've determined whether your door is going to be inset or an overlay door on a frame, our stiles and rails are cut, now it's time to start assembly. So if you look here on the back side, this door is assembled with pocket hole joinery. Now, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to clamp our stiles and rails down to the work surface. That way make sure they're nice and flat. Then from there, we're just going to add some glue and add our 1.25 inch pocket hole screws. Now that our frame is assembled, we're going to and we're just going to use pocket hole plugs. Now in this case, I'm using poplar, but I said you can do this out of any kind of wood you want. So if you're using pine, they make pine pocket hole plugs as well. If you're using oak, they make oak, maple. I mean, it really doesn't matter. They even have just paintable grade ones if you're going to be painting the cabinets. Either way, pick the one that just at least best matches your wood. Add a bead of glue, put in the plugs, wait, come back. After the plugs are dried, we just need to shave them down. So I'm just using a hand plane here. You can use a flush trim saw, pull saw, whatever you've got available. Mine's just a simple little $20 hand plane. Just shave the tops off. One other thing to keep in mind too is because they're pocket hole plugs, they may not fit exactly snug. You may have just a little gap. So once your plugs are in there, just take and smear a little bit of wood filler around all of the holes. And then once you come back, let the wood filler dry. Then we're just going to sand all that smooth. You will never know they're even there. All right, now that the frame is assembled, the plugs are filled, what we're going to do is take and route in our chamfer in order to recess our 1/4 inch plywood backer. So I've got a chamfer bit in my router here, And to set the depth on that, I just held a piece of my 1/4 inch ply up to my tooth, and then I literally just gave myself about an extra 1/16 of an inch deep. And then just go ahead, route your entire chamfer into the back panel, and then cut your plywood backer to size. From there, we're just going to run a bead of glue around the whole perimeter and press in your plywood panel. It should be a relatively snug fit from there. Now you can staple it in, brad nail it in. I literally just put a dumbbell on it and just let it dry just with a pressure fit is all I did. And then determining your hinges. Again, I used concealed Euro hinges on this guy here. Now, you're just going to need a concealed hinge jig like this one here. This guy literally just clamps onto the side. You make your adjustments depending on the hinges that you have. And then put the bit in your drill your hinge holes. Now there are measurements along the front of this guy here as well, so figure out exactly where you want your hinges to be and then just line these measurements up with the side of your door. It makes it nice and easily repeatable. So to mount our hardware, now if you're going to be building, like say, a whole kitchen's worth of cabinet doors and stuff like that, it may be worth investing into a cabinet hardware jig. Now I don't have that jig. So far I've just been doing it myself, just with some measurements, but I may pick one up in the future. But either way, so to mount the hardware without the jig, what you're going to do is, again, if you guys haven't seen my video on why I like this guy yet, this is yet another reason why I do. Check that video out too. So we're going to take our combination square. Now I've got a 1x3 here, which is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take my combination square, set it at 1.25 inches, which is half of the thickness of my board. And just because I actually like the distance, I'm also going to set it 1.25 inches down from the top. So what I'm going to do is just take and mark a line, just a small little notch down, and over as well, and I'll make my first X. So that tells me exactly where my first screw hole is going to be. If you want, then you can take and measure the distance from the center of your holes and then make that mark on your board. 3 3/4 on mine. What you could also do is just line up the center of your mark to the center of the other hole and just make a light mark. Then all you got to do is just worry about your horizontal measurement, and bam, there's the 2 spots I need to drill. Now because I don't want any blowout on the back, I'm going to be drilling into another board. And it's always good practice to start the screws by hand, so that way you don't worry about cross threading or stripping a screw out by doing it with the drill. Now to install the door to the cabinet, what we're going to do is we're going to take my combination square. Now this board is a 1x2, so it's 1.5 inches wide. So I've got my square set at 1 inch. That'll leave me 1 inch overhang, or 1/2 inch overhang, because these hinges are 1/2 inch overlay doors. So what we're going to do is just rest it on top, slide the door up till it touches, and there's my 1/2 inch overlay. Then I'm just going to take my pencil, mark a dot inside the center of each hinge, take an 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'm just going to drill out these holes. notice that there is a little bit of adjustment up and down to make sure these doors get installed in the right spot. After that, just make your final adjustments and go from there. And that's really all there is to it, you guys. Like I said, it's not overly difficult. There are obviously just a few things to keep in mind, a little bit of math and measuring, but it's not overly difficult to create a really, really nice piece. Now again, the best part is you can say you built it yourself. Now, if you guys like this kind of video, let me know down in the comments below if you want me to slow down on any other future projects or something like that, or if you guys have an idea for something, I'll do my best to accommodate it as well for you. And if you guys have any questions on any of the tools or anything like that I used, again, ask them down below. I'll have links to everything that I used in the description box so that if you guys need something, you can get it yourself. And yeah, if you guys build any of these things, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.